Will Arsenal capitalise this weekend when they play Wolverhampton Wanderers? And could City, who are looking scary at the moment, slip up to Crystal Palace away in the Premier League? We look ahead of that. Plus, Chelsea must. They must beat Everton this weekend. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. They must win. We're also taking a look at the situation with Liverpool, Mohamed Salah. Who's right? Who is wrong? Could this be his last game as an available Liverpool player this weekend? Plus, we look back at what Steven Gerrard had to say. And we're going to be going through some brilliant fact or fiction questions. Please hit the like button. Please make sure you are subscribing to the show. Get those two things done now. Subscribe, hit the like button, sit back and enjoy yourselves. We've got a brilliant panel for you tonight. Tom Little is back on. We haven't heard his thoughts on the Mo Salah situation, so I can't wait to delve into that one with him. We've got man like Ash, a.k.a. Lloyd Christmas. He's done his hair tonight, though. Look, he's actually done his hair. He's done his hair.
I can't have it down.
Put the fringe down again. Put the fringe down again. Put the fringe down.
I put stuff in it. It don't go down anymore.
I'm only messing, mate. I'm only messing. You don't need to do that. He's with us today, and Seb Shirts is here with us again. How you doing, Seb?
Yeah, I'm groovy, mate. How are you?
I can't complain. The cold is feeling a little bit better, but still not quite over it. Do you know what I mean? And I'm actually rocking I don't know. I haven't worn this in about 10 years. I saw it in my closet and I thought I'll put it on because it looked really comfortable and baggy whilst not feeling ill. It's my Sens jersey, my Ottawa Senators jersey. They're NHL team, hockey team, my team from Canada, Ottawa. Big up Ottawa. If anyone's tuning in from that beautiful, wonderful city. Look, we've got loads to talk about today. We've got loads to delve into. So we're just going to jump straight into it. And I'm going to start with, we'll start with a little warm-up. We'll do a little warm-up. We'll do some little teams. Fact or fiction, Tom? Sunderland are a level above Newcastle right now, and they'll prove it with a win this weekend.
Is the game, what stadium's the game at?
Stadium of Shy.
Stadium of Light.
Half of it's fiction. I don't think they're a level above Newcastle. I think they've had the best season so far, but I don't think as a team they're a level above. But they will win that game this weekend. Sunderland will win that game. They will. It's the emotion behind that game. Because I'm pretty sure it's a lot of these Sunderland players' last games before they go AFCON as well. So there's a lot on this game. Not just for, barring the obvious, it's the first time we're derby since however many seasons.
Last year.
In the Premier, no one cares about the FA Cup one. Who cares about that one? I mean, a Premier League time we're derby.
Yeah,
I've been that since 2016, 17, whatever. So there's a lot riding on that. I think Sunderland has been better this year. That's the fact of the matter. I don't think they're a better team, but they've been better this year. I think they're a team that are more settled, surprisingly, considering how much business they've done. But just with all the drama that's gone on around Newcastle this season, they look a more settled team. Sunderland look like a team who can win either way, which I think is the biggest thing. They look like a team that can win either way. They can sit deep and defend ruggedly, but they also have been quite promising going forward this year. Whereas I just have more questions than answers with Newcastle this year. I think Newcastle's just been a definition of inconsistency for a number of reasons. And I just I can't see them getting away from that in such a high emotion game, especially since it's at the Stadium of Light. They'll be right up for it. Like I said, it's a lot of these Sunderland players last games before AFCON. I think that's going to be the tipping edge. I think Sunderland get the job done, but I don't think they are, well, not a level above. They've performed better. That they've had a little bit more rub the green with things. They've had a better start to the season type thing, but they're not a level above Newcastle. Newcastle have just underperformed at this point in time, and probably look. I think Newcastle are probably one of the ones that are more disappointed with the season than anyone, just based on where they sit and how many points they've let slip away in stupid circumstances.
Yeah. But there's only 1 point between them now. So it has been closed in the last, Newcastle with 3 wins in the last 5, Sunderland with only 1 win in the last 5. How do you see it going, Ash? Because
we have a much better form. Like I said, in the last 5 games, with 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. Sunderland's 1 win, 2 draws, 2 losses. Like, they came out of the season looking good, but it's we have from the last game, the last derby that we had over a year ago with them.
I mean, to be fair to Sunderland, they've had a horrible run of 5 games.
Okay,
they've had to play Arsenal, City, and Liverpool. I mean, I said Liverpool. Liverpool's not exactly a tough team this season, and Bournemouth as well, who are four of the better teams in the Premier League. I don't know what your last run of games is, but I do have a little bit of sympathy there for something. That's a tough run. That's a really tough run. And some of those results were good results.
I get what you're saying, but we're coming halfway to we're basically at the halfway point of the season. So we're coming into this game with a bit of form, and they're coming a bit out of form. Like 9, we had from our last derby game, 9 players of the squad was in that. Is still in the team.
I'm going to ask you some tougher questions here. Who are the players in the Sunderland team you're fearful of? Who are the players that you must stop to be able to win this game?
Granit Xhaka, obviously, he's the biggest worry. I think he's someone obviously from the Leverkusen side, and obviously previous at Arsenal, that's a level above the entire Sunderland squad. I think he dictates the game, to be honest, normally from the Sunderland point of view. He's probably my only worry, to be honest, from the Sunderland side of things. I'm as Sunderland as a team, I'm not massively fearful. I think we're coming into a bit of form ourselves. I'm personally not too worried. I actually think we're going to win this game, which is weird because, like say the Leverkusen game, I thought we were going to lose. This game, I think we're actually going to be up for it because we have the biggest difference between Sunderland and Newcastle right now for this derby game. They have so many players that have no idea what this derby is going to be like. They only had 2 players that was in the last derby game. We have 9. Like, and one of those players that was in the last derby game scored an own goal, Ballard. So he's already going to have a head loss. And like I said, when you talk about 7 of those players are going to AFCON, is their head going to be in the game, or is it going to be thinking about AFCON? Like, it works both ways. That it's yes, it's going to be their last game for Sunderland, but also are they going to be thinking about AFCON over the game?
That's fair. Seb, how do you see this game going? I mean, I think it's one of the matches. I mean, the scheduling is horrendous. I want to say the fact this isn't the 4:30 game on Sunday, or make it. I mean, why couldn't it have been the 12:30 game this weekend? I mean, Newcastle played Tuesday in the Champions League. No, they played Wednesday. So, okay, maybe they can't put it on that early, but it could be the 5:30 on a Saturday or 2 o'clock on a Sunday. I don't think there's much difference in rest, but it's on a horrible time because it's crammed with other teams. But how do you see it going, Seb? How do you see the game going?
It's going to be a massive game. I do think when we talk about a lot of these games, they end up being draws. I think it's going to be very cagey just because it's such a big occasion, especially for Sunderland being back in the Premier League. They have been decent this season. I think it will level out by the end of the season. I think Newcastle will overtake them. I think Sunderland will start to drop off. We've seen them start to drop off already. Their numbers are slowly returning to a base level where you'd expect. So I think Newcastle by the end of the season will take them over, but I think it'll be a draw at the weekend just because it's such a big occasion. It's going to be a very physical game. I expect a lot of yellow cards. Obviously, I think Newcastle need to rely on their physicality because the reason Sunderland managed to get a draw against Arsenal particularly was how physical they were. They were on the front foot. And Newcastle are a physical side, so they need to use that as well. I think a big thing with Newcastle this year, when you look at the numbers underneath, me and Ash had debate about this. Newcastle are trying to transition into more of a possession-based side. The higher up the league they go, they need to start doing that. They're not fully focused on defence anymore. And I think that the team has been struggling with that transition a bit, especially without a particular creator in the midfield. I think that's been a problem for them. I think they really need to replace Joe Linton with someone a bit more a bit more creative in the midfield. I think maybe going for like a Damsgaard in January. I think Damsgaard is a very good player and he'd fit in there quite well. But it's going to be a physical matchup, and I think it will be a draw. I'll probably say a 1-1 draw for me.
I think Joe Linton's not going to be ready for this game. By the way, he had a bit of a niggle and an injury at the Leverkusen game. He got taken off. It would be more likely to be like Jacob Ramsey that's actually starting.
Who would you like? What would you like your midfield and front line to look?
So before I would have happily have said Jacob Ramsey, Bruno, and Tonali, but we did this Eddie Howe did a sort of formation that I wasn't really expecting. He had Lewis Miley come on for Joe Linton and was a bit further up the pitch against Leverkusen, and he looked unbelievable. And plus he's a homegrown Newcastle Academy talent, so he'll be completely up for it. He came on the back end of
that swings both ways, though, doesn't it?
He came for it. He came on the last Derby game as well, and obviously Dan Burn was on for the last game as well. I think some of these players, I do think that I just think that we've got a bit more about us at the moment. I think we're getting to a bit of form. Like, you talk about the possession, which I completely agree. It was like even the Leverkusen, the first half, we had nearly 60% of the possession away from home. So like just that itself, then obviously my only qualm that I have at the moment, our away form has not been too good, and we are typically sitting back if we go a goal or two up, which slightly worries me. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So I do think the likes of like Bruno and Dan Burn will be completely up for this game. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dan Burn starts at the back, to be honest.
I think it could go one way with Bruno because it's at the stadium. It's going to be rocking there. It could get into Bruno's head. You know what Bruno's like when he is fully pumped up? He does do some stupid stuff. So it could go one way. I could definitely see a red card in this game just because of how pumped up Newcastle players get, even in normal games. So I can't imagine what Bruno's going to be like in that midfield against Granit Xhaka as well. It's going to be quite the match. I'm actually really looking forward to it because we haven't watched one for a very long time. So I'm very looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good game. But yeah, if I was going to wedge one way, I'd go Newcastle. But I think a draw. And I think a draw would be a perfectly fine result for both teams. To be honest, going to wedge to your rivals, a draw's not that bad. Especially because a lot of teams have struggled going there. So
yeah, I'm going to go with 2-1 win. I think Sunderland do it. I think Sunderland win 2-1. That's what I'm going. I'll put my neck out.
Shame on you, Terry.
Well, it's not my fault. I think they've been better than you this year. But for me, they've been the standout team of the season in terms of pound for pound. They've been the standout so far. Yeah,
but equally,
let's see how the league goes. I mean, the league table just is so weird at the minute. They're sitting in 9th. That looks like they're falling off. They win that game. Can't quite go 4th because Palace's goal difference is +8, but they could go joint 4th with a win, and depending what the other teams do this weekend.
What if they beat Newcastle like 9-0? Does that give them enough goal difference?
Yeah, they would then. So they could go as high as joint 4th with a win. But the whole league's crazy, isn't it? If you actually look at Crystal Palace in 4th on 26 points, right down to Newcastle in 12th on 22 points. 4 points separates those positions. So, a win puts you that close to things. And I mean, Palace play City, so they could close the gap to City this weekend. Everton play Chelsea. If Everton were to get a win at Stamford Bridge, we're going to get onto that soon. They would go into 4th place if Crystal Palace were to lose. United play Bournemouth, could go into that area. It's amazing, the Premier League race for those European spots at this moment. This comment here says, Terry, seeing Terry in a Sens shirt is crazy. Who's your favourite player? I'm never someone who pretends that I watch a lot of hockey anymore. I used to like it a lot more when I was younger. I used to play a little bit. My favourite player for the Senzo was a guy, and I was from Czech, and I'm going to probably botch his name. I think it was Radek Bonk was his name. He was a centre. No, Radek Bonk.
That's a great name.
Radek Bonk was his name. I love watching. I like watching him play. And there was also Alfredson, who I think was a right-sided attacker. I don't even know names of positions. I used to watch a bit of hockey, but when I stayed in Ottawa quite a bit, I used to train and teach kickboxing there. I went a few times, and that's where I bought the shirt from, the stadium, and I haven't worn it in years. But there we go. Radek Bonk, player. He's a real hockey player. If you want to go check it out, I'm not talking about Disney here. He's a real player. I think he was from Czech Republic. He'll be probably old now as well. Probably 50 odd years old by now. I would expect 22 fucking years ago. Moving on from this game, moving on from this, where do we start in these questions? I'll tell you what we'll do. Tom, fact or fiction? Kobbie Mainoo staying quiet whilst being disappointed is the professional and right way to handle the pressure. Mo Salah has done the opposite, and it's wrong. Fact or fiction on that? And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this week with the outburst from Mo Salah, the attacks on him from a lot of the Liverpool supporters, the Jamie Carragher situation, and how you think it gets resolved.
First of all, I'm going to apologise for these two because I might go on for a while here because this has been a big thing. On a baseline level, yes, Kobbie Mainoo's done it the right way. Mohamed Salah's done it the wrong way. I think there's a lot more to it than that, though. I think that ultimately Mohamed Salah's standing at Liverpool compared to Kobbie Mainoo's standing at United, this gets factored in at this point. The forms of both teams probably gets factored in. Ultimately, the fact Mohamed Salah's one of the greatest players the Premier League has seen for the last 10 years probably counts a little bit more to his way. I think that this isn't a black and white thing. If it was a black and white thing and he's purely done what he's done because he's not been playing, then it's a really bad look. But just based on what he said and based on rumours and stories that you can read into and stuff, I do think it goes a little bit deeper than that. If this was just about not being played, a lot more would have been said about the manager. But outside of saying he doesn't have a relationship with him, he made it abundantly clear that it was the club and the club. There was someone in the club that was wanting him gone, and it was always about the club and the club and the club. And he separated the manager from it, and he separates the fans from it, which makes me think it's someone more on an executive level. Do I think he should have come out and said it? No. I'll never agree with that. Do I understand why he's come out and said it? Yes, I do. He feels he's getting pushed out the back door. He can't accept that. He wants to get his side out before he has to go to AFCON. I can understand why he's done it. I don't like it, but I can understand why he's done it. And I do think there's a merit to certain things that he says, but the way he's gone about it takes away from that. If there was a way that could have come out without it being so explosive and without it coming after a result like that, maybe we could have looked at it in a different sort of light. But the way it got delivered and the timing of it, and quite frankly, the harshness of the words, the extreme nature of it, makes it very polarizing. I feel like I'm sat in the middle on it. I really do. I feel like ultimately with him, has he had a great season this season? No, he hasn't. Especially going off what was the high of last year and the levels that he reached last year. He's got nowhere near that this year. But I don't think it's solely down to him why he's got nowhere near that this year. I don't think he's the only one that's not hit that levels. So to a degree of where he says he feels he's been scapegoated, I can hear that because he's come out the team and what the results have improved to a degree. We haven't lost, but the football has been crap. I'll be the first to say that. We've not played well. We've got a good result. If you're doing results-based analysis, we've got some decent results and a poor one in there. But the performance level's not been good. We've barely created. A lot of mistakes are still happening. We're more assured in the first phase, but mistakes are still happening at the back, which aren't necessarily getting addressed and don't get addressed with him out the team. So on that line, he can feel scapegoated. And I think he's just desperate to try and help this team. I think he's desperate to get on that pitch and help us out. I think that's ultimately what it is. I feel like the way we've played this year hasn't helped him. You maximised what he could do last year by putting so many runners around him and basically having him play as a quarterback in the attack, where the moment he got the ball, 4 different players would run off in different directions, create space, make runs into space, and Salah could pick the ball up one-on-one and go, I'm either going to pass to him because he's in space and that run's created that. I'm going to beat my man and have a shot, or I'm going to beat my man, get to the byline and pull it back. And he had 3 options of what to do every single time because the players were running for him. Now, if he gets the ball in the same position as he was getting it last year, Szoboszlai and Curtis Jones stand behind him, hands behind the back, waiting for him to take on form and then put the ball in the box. If he doesn't put the ball in the box, it goes backwards, and then we just spend 2 minutes recycling the ball back to front. There's no pace in the attack now. There's no divisiveness in the attack. We've lost a lot of our threat and transition, which is a real problem. And I can get that point. We have been more defensively solid, so the argument of taking him out the team also has merit. This is the stupid thing about it. Both sides, I hear both sides of it. The one thing I didn't like, and again, I hear both sides of Carragher. Carragher actually started, because the whole 7-minute rant with Carragher, the first 2.5 minutes of that, really good. I think he was touching on the right points. And then it just felt like a bit of an ego thing where he had to go, oh, by the way, you were crap at Chelsea as well. By the way, what have you done for Egypt? Nothing. Oh, but by the way, when have I ever criticised him? That side of it, I felt we moved away from it. If he'd just focused on the baseline stuff of Mohamed Salah, shouldn't be saying that. You shouldn't be coming out and saying that in public. You shouldn't be causing more of a pile-on the players. You shouldn't be causing more of a pile-on the manager, regardless of what he feels, regardless of if he's right or not. It's not a good look for him. It's not a good look for the club. It did feel like it was ultimately Salah putting out a thing, going, it's me or them. And that's a bad look. But for Carragher to then go to the other end of that and start, for lack of a better term, mocking what happened at Chelsea, mocking what happened at Egypt, suggesting that Trent Alexander-Arnold was, hated playing behind them for 8 years because Salah never tracked back, which is an inherent lie. It's an inherent lie. And that Carragher's never criticised him about his football. And then when someone brings up the fact that he said his legs were gone, which you might like to say, Carragher used and was laughing and joking about it when he used it as a thing for Casemiro a couple of years ago when he said, leave the football before the football leaves you. But now when it's directed at Salah, oh no, it's not meant like that. So I don't think you can swing both ways. The way Gerrard said it on that thing he done with TNT Sports is probably the best way of putting it.
Yeah.
So, what needs to happen now? This cannot play out in public anymore. It can't play out in public anymore. It's a shambles. It overshadowed the game on Tuesday. Not that there was much to overshadow. It was another drab game. But it overshadowed the game on Tuesday. Before the game, it was all anyone was talking about. After the game, it was all anyone was talking about. The fallout has been going on for days. It can't carry on like this. One of the two has to make way. I feel the way Mo Salah is, the way he is the way he operates as a man and as a player, and the explosiveness of the comments, and how he was saying, I feel thrown under the bus. Someone doesn't want me here. I don't think they're just things that you can go, oh, he apologized. It's all forgiven. I'll be back. I think it's a little bit more extreme than that. I would like to see him on Saturday in case it's the last time.
On that,
I don't think that's going to happen.
We're going to come on to that in a second. On that, I just want to play for the viewers some of the snippets of what Steven Gerrard said in case they haven't seen it. Let's take a quick look.
He's obviously really upset he's not playing, which I respect. He wants to help the team, I respect. A couple of lines about throwing people on the bus, wrong.
Yeah.
He needs to reverse a little bit away from that. He needs to deal with that with the manager. This needs Virgil van Dijk to go, are we sorting this out for the benefit of not even so much the club or the team, it's the fans. I've seen this and I've lived it. I lived it with Suarez when he fell out with Brendan, face to face. I've seen it all, and I've been there myself from a personal point of view. I done the Salah statement in 30 seconds against United and got sent off.
Yeah.
So no one's perfect. We've all had head loss as players. We've all done emotional things where we think, oh, and I know in time when this all calms, Mo will go, I shouldn't have said that. I maybe shouldn't have said that. And I was a bit emotional, I was a bit hasty and blah, blah, blah. But the end of the day is, Liverpool Football Club need Mo Salah. Back playing well, back scoring goals, big player, the best scorer, and he will help them get out of this. If this goes on, this is bigger than what we all know and what we see.
And I think what Gerrard has capitulated has been perfect. I think what you said right at the beginning of your monologue, Tom, is that you feel in the middle. That's because you're being balanced. I think anybody that's completely sided with Mo is by and large wrong. I think anybody that only looks at this from the club's point of view, don't let him back, ostracize him. I've been up and down on the opinion with things this week, and that's why you have conversations and people challenge you. And I think it was LB that threw something back at me. And then listening to Gerrard speak as well, I went, do you know what? You'll get this phrase a lot this week. You can't put anybody above the club. And by and large, I agree, but you have to look at what that looks like. And I'll give you an example. And this could be much worse for Liverpool because of who Salah is and what he means to his teammates. I remember when Ollie had a problem in the Man United dressing room, and Ollie got on quite well with all the players, but there was a lack of respect for him that developed along with the decision makers like Woodward when they promised our backup goalkeeper Sergio Romero a move away, and then they just pulled the plug on it. So basically, he was left as third choice goalkeeper. It may have even been in a World Cup year, and there's a lot of reports that the players were so disappointed with the management for allowing that to happen when they promised the player that he could leave, if that makes sense. And I think that how you treat squad members, even when they've made a mistake like Mo Salah because he shouldn't have spoke publicly, you could do the whole cut their legs off at the ankles. But if you don't give them the opportunity to resolve the situation, you could be in trouble. So people will often look at, oh, Fergie did it. But go and look at what happened with Roy Keane. Sir Alex gave him an opportunity to backtrack and apologize to the guys. And Keane said, no, I won't. So then he moved him on. And I think it's absolutely imperative. I think the more I think about what Gerrard said, the more I think it's real. Salah
that was
should...
interesting about what Seedorf said as well. I don't know if you watched the Seedorf interview with Slot after the game. And Seedorf, he said to him that the manager... You know, everyone makes mistakes, and then Slot says something that I didn't. I get why he's annoyed and I get why he's frustrated because he's under a lot of pressure, and then this just piles it on more. And I still am of the opinion that I'm willing to change manager. That's not changed because of this. But he said something about, well, it depends if the player thinks he's wrong, and then who should be the one to initiate. And I thought Seedorf acted with a lot of class about the way you went about it. You went, I hear that, but the way I was as a player and the way I seen these things go down at the clubs I was at. It was always better if the manager opened the door first and gave the player the opportunity. And if the player doesn't take it, well, then we're in a different situation, aren't we? But I feel like that olive branch needs to be extended. And we need to know that the olive branch is extended.
It absolutely does. And do you know what, Twisted? A public apology doesn't need to happen. A private apology can happen. And then the manager in a press conference can say, everything's been discussed internally between myself, the player, and or the ownership and or the captain. Everything has been resolved and he is now back part of the team. But this is where honest conversations have got to take place. And I'm completely in the middle because I have no dog in the fight. I'm not a Liverpool fan. But Liverpool have released via David Ornstein. And I trust what I'm hearing because I don't think Ornstein would... I happen to be someone that doesn't believe Ornstein would just push a story because the club want him to. I said the same thing in the summer when Newcastle fans were saying, oh, he's only pushing one side of the story to favour Liverpool trying to buy Isak. I disagreed. I actually thought these articles covered both sides. It would be Isak's party say this, but Newcastle say different. And what he has printed today, or I think he might have said it rather than printed, is that Liverpool saying they don't want to sell him. Liverpool are saying they want him back in the squad. They have no intention of getting rid of him. Now, I've been challenged today and people have said, Terry, you're naive. That's just the club making that stance. Well, maybe I am naive, but if the club have now publicly stated that via Ornstein, Salah should call them at their bluff and say, okay, well, I'm willing to retract what I've said about being thrown under the bus and get back part of the team. What are Liverpool then going to do? Go, actually, no, we're going to sell you now, because then Liverpool lose all credibility in this conversation. So I do think the ball is in Mo Salah's...
We don't have much of a leg to stand on as a club anyway, because you're the one... If you didn't want him... the one thing that's come from this is I believe that if the club had got everything they wanted in the summer and mainly Trent was willing to stay, I do have a feeling that Salah may... That's the one thing that this is sort of put in the back of my mind. But ultimately, the power isn't necessarily in Liverpool's hands here because Salah doesn't want to go Saudi yet. He said that very clearly last year. He doesn't want to go Saudi yet. He wants to continue competing at the top level. He won't. Therefore, I can also probably rule out America as well at this point. He probably wants another couple of years challenging at the very top of Europe. So which European clubs can really, A, afford him, and B, want him at this point in time? And if none of that happens, but we are insistent on what we're doing, then Mohamed Salah can sit there earning £450,000 a week, doing nothing. And what can we do about it? Because of what we've done at this point in time. If what he's saying is true, that we're pushing him out the door, then he's got more power in the situation than what we ultimately do. Whereas if he's just throwing his toys out the pram because he didn't start 3 games in a run, then
this is
it's
this
a
is
it's a
also-
bad look on him.
Well, this is the thing, because Arne Slot has essentially said, I didn't know we had a bad relationship because it's just you're not playing for a few games. I love what Sadov said around, you initiating the conversation, but I also agree with what Slot said. Maybe what I've noticed is that I find people that probably haven't been leaders or bosses or run businesses or team leaders view this differently to people that have. But there also has to be a willingness from Mo to repair the relationship, because if the manager comes out and says, look, let's sit down to repair this, and Mo says, no, I don't trust you anymore, then it's just it's a non-starter. He won't feature against Brighton, and that's correct. And then what are the club going to do if Mo isn't willing to, no matter what Slot says, if Mo's like, no, I'm not retracting anything, then he's gone. I mean, there's nothing else you can do to resolve that. Seb, from an outsider's perspective, how do you view this situation in terms of, I think we all know that it was wrong that Mo spoke out the way he did. Maybe you see it differently. But what do you make of Mo's outburst? But equally, what do you think is the best course of action moving forward for Liverpool?
So I think it's salvageable as long as both parties want to salvage it. The big thing for me is obviously he's done it in a heated moment. You always say things that you might not necessarily mean in the heat of the moment, and you can apologise. That can be done. The bit for me is obviously the difficult bit is you want players to encourage players to talk about their mental health, because being a professional footballer, having all the eyes on you, it must be very stressful. You want them to talk about it. It's just there should be a proper way of talking about that. Maybe he needs a better outlet to express his emotions. Maybe that's something that can be looked into, and just get that sort. Because obviously, with a lot of other footballers, we've seen how bad their mental health has affected them. So maybe that's something that needs to be looked at. He's obviously done it in a very unprofessional manner, but when you're emotional, sometimes you don't think in a sensible way. The difficult bit for me is it kind of feels like Salah obviously wasn't thinking. Maybe he wasn't thinking straight. We don't actually know what's happening behind the scenes. He may feel like he's being mistreated.
I think it was a premeditated thing. I think
you think it was.
He thought on it for a week. Yeah,
I
Mohamed
think
Salah only speak. This is one thing Carragher's correct on. Mohamed Salah only speaks in the mix zone if he's got a message he wants to get across, and I don't think that comes out heat at the moment. I think he's worked on that for a little bit of time. I don't know how long, but he's planned that for a little bit of time. Well, I don't think it's a case of we've just drawn 3-3 in the 96th minute. Oh, you know what? There's a journalist. Let me just get it. Let me just rip into the football club for 7 minutes like that. I think there was a little bit more planning behind.
No, I do think he's probably been feeling like this for a long time, but there has to be an instigator factor why he's done it now. But if it is fully meditated, for more of my thinking, he's not stupid. He'd know what the fallout is, and I think it's wrong from him. If obviously he must love the football club, love the fans, to put the fans in a position where a lot of them feel like they have to choose between their club, the player. I think that's wrong. He shouldn't have done that. But it is salvageable. They just need to sit down and do it in private. The problem is because it's obviously out in the open. If it was just an article release going, oh, Salah's had a meeting in private about blah, 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 there wouldn't be as much outrage about it. It's just the way he's done it, and it's just silly because he's not stupid. He'd have known what would have happened. He'd have known the outrage it would have caused. Maybe he's trying to angle for a move. I don't know. But clearly, I think it's just been building up for a long time, and it's all just come out. So there could be an element of it being premeditated. He's probably been thinking about it. He might have been thinking about it in his head. But I can't see him sat down with his agent going, this is what I'm going to do, necessarily, because I think his agent would be, that's a stupid thing to do.
No, I agree with that. Rahman has shared this. This is a comment from Van Dijk. I want to throw this to Ash first. This is Van Dijk saying, not up to me to say who should apologise. It's him airing his feelings, him as in Salah. The club have to deal with it as with it, and him as well. Do you think the captain should be? I mean, he probably shouldn't publicly say, I'm going to make him apologise, because that is ridiculous. But did that sound to you a little bit like Van Dijk's taking a step back from this? Isn't the club captain meant to get involved in these scenarios, as we've heard from multiple other captains like Steven Gerrard, who got himself involved in the Suarez situation to try and help resolve the matter? Is this something that Van Dijk should be involved in for you?
A typical argument or confrontation or whatever that happens between the players and the manager, I would normally say yes. But if you read between the lines of what Salah said, it does sound like it's not just to do with Slot, that it's more higher up potentially inside the club. I think Van Dijk should be also talking to Salah to help him out. I think that they definitely should be trying to have a relationship there. Granted, I can understand why, say, Van Dijk might be annoyed because Salah did come out and kind of throw his teammates under the bus a bit, which, as a captain, he would be quite annoyed because he would be defensive over the rest of his players as well. So I think it all comes back to the same position. Everyone has to be willing to apologize and to get over him, to move on, to allow any sort of relationship and for allow him to come back into the team. Without that, there's not going to be a relationship to rebuild. I don't think Van Dijk's completely against. I'm not fully against what he's saying, that it's up to Salah to apologise, because I think it definitely is. But like I said, it depends. If the issue is solely between Slot and Salah, then Van Dijk should be also part of that, being the captain. But if it's higher ups or whatever, it's neither here nor there. It just feels like there is a bigger problem at here than what maybe people are led on to know, which is one of the reasons why it probably came out. But
how do you see it, Tom? I mean, as a few people in the comments are jokingly saying, like, VVD's got a habit of backing off at the moment. Is this a time where you want to see your captain less involved, or do you feel that, maybe he should be, orchestrating helping to orchestrate some of these conversations, putting himself forward to help resolve these matters, as we've seen multiple captains at multiple clubs do before?
Yes, I would, but like I said, there's only so much he can do. I have a feeling that what has gone on is Liverpool's start to the season has been poor, and the one thing about our squad this year is it is a squad stuck between eras. We have brought in a lot of new guys who are going to be the next age of Liverpool, while still keeping a lot of the old guard. And the hope was the mix of the two could combine well for 2 years, and then we get a lovely farewell. The old guard can go, the new guard fill in. That's not happened. That's not happened for whatever reason. So the football club now, or the guys upstairs, should I say, have gone, we might just need to commit to the new one right now. We can't commit to the old one. They've got 2 years left in their old. So we're going to speed up our process and commit to the new age. And then that's been communicated to Arne Slot, who, under immense pressure because his job's not safe, because he's won 5 out of his last 16 games, has put up a little fight, and as a result started to phase certain people out of or tried to phase certain people out. And Salah was the main one for that, because it ultimately we brought in more attacking talent than anywhere else, so he can put all his new guys in, and Cody Gakpo for some reason. But he can put all his new guys in, and they can play, and Salah is the one who misses out. And I think that's the part where he says that he's no longer got a relationship comes in, where the manager has probably started to gradually phase away from him, and Salah's seen that. If that is the case, Van Dijk ultimately can't do anything about that, because the decision has been made higher up than the manager. And Van Dijk's not going to walk into Michael Edwards and Richie Hughes and go, you should not sell Mohamed Salah, because ultimately that's going to achieve nothing. I don't think players going to executives achieves anything. Players going to coaches and managers can. Players going to executives doesn't. So if it is just a case between Salah and Arne Slot and Salah had a breakdown in a relationship and whatever, Van Dijk should sit there and mediate that. Van Dijk, Robertson, Alisson, whoever, the experienced heads in that dressing room, the leaders in that dressing room should sit there and mediate that, because ultimately Liverpool are better off with Mohamed Salah available to play and available as an option.
And that was going to be my question to you, but it kind of leads into the next fact or fiction on this that we'll do. This is fact or fiction, and viewers, I'd love to get your view on this as well. So keep your comments coming. It's wrong that Liverpool aren't planning to give Mo Salah an Anfield farewell. Protecting his transfer value shouldn't come before his legacy.
I mean, the part that gets me on that is, in what way is it protecting his transfer value? One game,
I don't know.
One substitute appearance isn't going to change that. And if anything, it might help it, because what he'd want to do, if it was his farewell, is come on and score. But the comments at the club, or the brief that the club released, and especially to one of the teams who said that they want to keep him in 2027, or till 2027, ultimately means that this shouldn't be an Anfield farewell. This shouldn't be, because it should be mediated, and I should expect to see him after AFCON.
Do you think he wants to, hand on heart right now, what do you personally think is more likely? Salah wants out or the club want him gone? Which, if you were going to put a bet on it, which party is pushing for the Salah exit, him or the club?
The club. That's who I think are pushing is probably the correct word. I don't want it to be that extreme, because I want Salah to stay, but that's probably the correct word. The club are the ones instigating. The club are the ones analysing everything and pretend. The what bit I don't like is, but Mohamed Salah still has a lot to offer. Ironically, the system that we've now started to play, in Arne Slot's new attempt to keep his job and find something to buy himself more time, this diamond, you wouldn't believe who it suits to go up front as his legs have started to slow down, where, maybe he's not as effective off the right anymore, where you've got to beat loads of men, but he's got 200 goals. He knows how to find the back of the net, so maybe he'd work in a two-striker system. But we've had this set up, so I don't want it to be a farewell. That's what I don't want it to be. If it is a farewell, he should get to say goodbye, because this is a man who for 9 years has been one of the top 2-3 players for this era. He's been one of the greatest players the Premier League's ever seen. And it would feel, I'd feel a bit disgusted if we pushed him out the back door with no farewell. I'd feel really bad about that, because this is someone who has given us an unmatched level of consistency. Firmino was never this consistent. Mane was never this consistent. He's the one that gave you unmatched levels of consistency, and it's a man who, for lack of a better, he genuinely loved this football club. He genuinely loves the fans. He loves playing for them. That's why I don't think it's him pushing for a move. I really don't think it's him pushing for a move. I hope it isn't him pushing for a move, should I say? And I don't think it is.
If it's the club pushing for a move, that just is so stupid, because they didn't have to keep him. They've offered him a lot of money to keep him here. If he'd have left at the end of last season, it'd have been a perfect farewell. He's won a Premier League trophy. Go off in the sunset. It's just
couldn't have afforded to lose.
I just don't, because everyone praises how well run Liverpool were up to this point, right? So for them to suddenly, in the space of a few months, go, "Oh, well, we want him so bad, we're going to offer him 400k a week," to actually we don't want him anymore, is mental. Like that is such a change in tact.
You see that's where I would. But is that no way you think maybe it is actually coming from the club? Because how I've been thinking about this, right? Salah got this massive contract upgrade. He's not had a great start to the season. And what if, say, someone like a Saudi clubs came on and came up to someone in Liverpool's management, whether it's Edwards or Hughes or whatever, and being like, "Look, we will take Salah in January for this massive fee," and then that's what they're trying to do, because he's not hit the ground running. They're trying to get the new players in, push them in as soon as possible to try and get them all fit and gelling together. And then Salah is just being the byproduct of potentially him going out in January.
Yeah, I think there is the possibility. There is always the possibility, and although I have my stance on this, this always winds up Staffy, but I can see the other side. Maybe it's not even as big as they realize they made a mistake instantly, like buyer's regret. This could be an element of maybe the data's coming through from the sports scientists, and they're like, "Fucking hell, maybe." I don't think his legs are gone. I think he's going to go somewhere else and score goals. I don't think he's completely finished yet. Personal opinion, could be wrong though. But if the data is coming in from sports scientists, then he is rapidly getting, because they'll have got all these data for the last 8 years. If they're suddenly looking at it and it's like, this is getting slower, that's getting slower, recovery time's not as quick, can't lift as much, can't run as fast, can't recover as quickly. He used to finish the 20-yard dash in this amount of seconds, and it's growing by, it was averagely growing by 0.1500th of a second every year he got older, but in the last 6 months it's grown by half a second. They might be looking at all of this and Liverpool thinking, we've actually made a massive mistake here paying somebody 400 grand a week who, with the current trend, could be completely finished in the next 2 months. Then it would make sense for Liverpool to push him out. What wouldn't make sense for them to push him out is if they really do see him as part of their future plans. And what we could all be doing here is overanalyzing this and ignoring Occam's razor. And this just could be an egotistical player. And by the way, that's not a dig. you can't be as good as Mo Salah and not be egotistical to a certain degree.
You have to think you're the best.
I think it is impossible to get to that level of quality and consistency without almost putting yourself on a pedestal, because you have to be very selfish in your own, I'm not talking on the pitch, in your life. And you've heard these stories about Ronaldo in his house. Basically, everyone just has to eat chicken with salad, no fruit juice, no sugars. It's water to drink only. There is like a selfish element. How many nights a week do Messi and Ronaldo and Mo Salah go to bed super early with their wife maybe staying up going, oh, Coronation Street hasn't even finished yet. I doubt they watch Coronation Street, but you get my point. You have to have a selfishness about you to get to that level. You have to have an arrogance and a confidence about you. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. This could just be Occam's razor, though, and the team, the manager has tried something for a few games to see whether or not it works. And Mo Salah has just gone, I can't accept this, and has lost his mind. I mean, it may not be as big as the club want him out. He may not even thought 2 games ago about leaving, and it's just been a knee-jerk snap to being dropped. I mean, that is also as plausible as a club trying to force him out to me.
The point I can get on that with is the reaction, especially to the game on Tuesday. The result is good on Tuesday. Inter Milan haven't lost the San Siro for years now in a Champions League game. But the idea has been, you take Mohamed Salah out of the team, Liverpool becomes so much better. What has happened is Liverpool have become better defensively to a degree. We've stopped conceding as many chances. And for the most part, we still have the same mistakes in our game. We still get rattled if we concede a goal. We still struggle for large parts of games, but we aren't necessarily as open. But the notion that Liverpool have become better because he's not on the pitch is not true, because we are so much worse going forwards. We are borderline toothless at points. Our last 5 goals were an own goal, a Leeds mistake passing it to our striker, a Leeds mistake passing it to our right back who passed it to our striker, a nice work goal for the third against Leeds, and a penalty which probably wasn't a penalty. We are not creating anything. I was at the Sunderland game, and I watched the Leeds game, and I watched the Inter Milan game. We do not create well without him on the pitch. The creativity is not there. So it's not like Liverpool have been better without him. We have just been less open without him. Where games before, when we'd win, it'd be 3-2. When we'd lose, it'd be 2-3. We're now, it's 1-0. Games where there's loads of mistakes being made by both sides is where you get loads of goals. But it's not like teams are picking us apart or we're picking them apart. It's capitalising on mistakes. Again, the Sunderland game, mistakes and their own goal. The Inter Milan game, they had the best chance of the game, which forced a good save from Alisson. And that was it. The West Ham game, we had 3 good chances in 90 minutes against one of the worst teams in the league this season. And on the run of things, Jared Bowen, unmarked, 17 yards out, probably should have made it 1-1, all things considered. He would score that more often than he wouldn't. So the notion that Liverpool have been a unequivocally better team without Mohamed Salah is not true. And that's something that I think has probably riled him up as well. Because that was the thing that everyone's latched onto. Everyone's just doing results-based analysis without understanding what we're actually seeing on the pitch.
I agree. And look, and I thought you should be very happy with your Inter Milan performance because of how hard they are to even create against. That being said, I totally get the notion of needing to improve on that. This week, forthcoming weekend as an example, and I think there's a lot of truth to that as well. The comment here says, Terry, do you think Mo being from Egypt plays a part in this? For some people it will, because there's some idiots out there, but I do think Mo Salah's nationality is one of the reasons that he may never have got the adulation and praise that others have received. So if you take Mo Salah's entire club career, but make him French, make him English, make him Brazilian, make him Argentinian, make him Spanish, I think maybe the world would view him a little differently. I think players from certain countries and certain parts of the world will always be looked at a little differently. And I think Mo Salah definitely has suffered with that. There's sometimes a bit of a snobbery at times within football. You know, sometimes you can have a player that's from Algeria who's very good at doing skills. He'll probably not get the same hype as a young player the same age as him who's, say, from Brazil doing exactly the same skills. The Brazilian will always get more hype because, oh, he's a Brazilian. It must mean he's going to be better. So I do think that has played a part in that. And, you know, if Mo Salah was English, I shudder to think of the extra awards he would have won. If he had a British passport and was English, it'd be unbelievable. He'd have won, if he was French, he'd have won 3 Ballon d'Ors by now. Let's just have it absolutely right. Like he would have done. It's as simple and straightforward as that for me. So I do think that certainly exists. Who do Liverpool play this weekend, by the way?
Brighton. Brighton at home.
At home, how do you think you'll get on?
Not confident. Because I just don't. They are one of the more inconsistent teams this year. I think they've been better than most people have given them credit for this season, Brighton, but they are inconsistent. Yeah. We are also inconsistent, but we have a lot more pressure on us, and we have a whole circus around the game. And another thing is he probably wants to stick with the same system that we played against Inter Milan. I'm not inherently against the system, but we have a massive problem going into the game of we don't have a right back for the system. Joe Gomez cannot attack, which is to be expected. He is a centre-back who fills in there. And Conor Bradley is suspended. So we don't have a right back that can hold width. Now, if you know anything about a diamond, your right back has to be very good at holding width to maximise the system. And we saw in the first half of the Inter Milan game what happens when your right back can't do that. All you end up doing down one side of the pitch is aimless long balls to either Ekitike or Isak. And we don't find them very well. It's ironically a game where, because we don't have a right back who can hold width, you'd want your striker to drift out wider in some circumstances and get on the ball and maybe carry it a little bit and create there. If only we had someone for that. But, you know, the situation that we're in, we might not have him. He might still be, you know, suspended by the club. So I'm a bit nervous about the game, I'll be honest. Okay. I want to say we'll win, but I'm leaning more so to a draw. That
is fair. Look, viewers, give us your thoughts, give us your opinions. By the way, as this comment is here, about 1,500 people watching this. Get the likes up right now, please, people. If you haven't done it already, like the show for us. Moving on from the Liverpool talk, I'm going to go to Seb first with this next fiction or fact question. And this was a nice one that someone wrote on our page earlier. With Enzo, Maresca and Ruben Amorim both on 25 points with Chelsea and United respectively, Man United are overachieving. This isn't about Chelsea underperforming. This is on the back, Seb, of quite a lot of people today. There's a lot of posts on socials. I don't know if you've seen them, sort of looking at the things that are being said about Maresca and how brilliant a manager he is, but also how horrible a manager Ruben is with a much worse squad, but yet they both sit on 25 points going into this weekend's fixtures. No win in the last 4 games in all comps for Chelsea. Is this Man United overachieving and Chelsea being where they should be, or do you think Chelsea have underperformed so far this season?
I think it is similar to a question I asked on the last Top 6 show I was on, when obviously the question was, should Chelsea be embarrassed or not? I'm not going to base my analysis now off of what Chelsea fans think, because I think the problem is Chelsea fans completely overhyped where their team was at, which then put them on a pedestal because they were... The problem is, after a lot of match reactions, people just like to make completely overarching statements of a team just from them having a good game, when every team has bad games, every team has good games. So from my perspective, where I saw Chelsea at the start of the season, I always said they'd be in a top 5 fight. Analysing their squad, they're not anywhere near as good as Chelsea fans think they are. They're exactly where I think they are. They're good enough for a top 5 fight for European football, but their depth there is abysmal because they have so many young players with so much talent. There isn't that experience to then try and bring them through. I think there's a severe lack at the back. That always seems to creep up in these games. Their defenders are all over the place. Their goalkeeper, once again, having stinkers. No team's going to do well with that back line, in my opinion. I think Enzo Fernandez is fine. He's not in this world category that some Chelsea fans like to put it. So I don't think Chelsea are where I just expect them to be. So I'm not going to say that they're embarrassing themselves or anything else. Man United have been good in certain areas, like going forward, they have been better than last year. It just is true. It's not a lie, even if you look statistically. Defensively, the further the season's gone, their defence is going down and down and down, which does coincide when you're playing Heaven. I think Heaven did just get thrown in there. So I think with Lisandro Martinez coming back, I think he'll work well in this system because he can step up into midfield and he is a good ball-playing defender. Maguire coming back. I think Maguire gets quite understated how bad, good or bad he is, because when he is in the system, he does look a lot better, and the defensive statistics are better than when Maguire is playing, and he is a big figure in there. So I don't think any team should be embarrassed or anything else. Man United should be fighting for a top 5 place. I think their squad is good enough. Obviously, it's lacking in certain areas, and obviously bringing in a midfielder, as everyone discussed, will make it better. I think, especially with Manchester United, you watch so many match reactions, and it's like Man United are either shit or they're really good. It's just they have good games and they have off games. You know, there's been games where they should have won more points, and there's been games where they've dropped more points. The problem with them is, I think, with Man United a lot is mentality. When they get to the end of games, they can't seem to see them out. So that is a problem in itself. But I think Man United are improved this year. If I was a Man United fan, I'd be reasonably happy being where I am right now. You're very close to the top 4. Any results go anyway because of how tight it is. One result can make it seem so dramatic, but then next week you could be in a good position again, which is why I think people need to relax when they are on match reactions and go, not make overarching statements and go, we've had a bad week this week, but we can build on that and we can learn from it. It's just, there's some areas where Man United look a lot better and there's some areas that look a lot worse. And Chelsea fans just need to stop. They need to get down to earth and go, we're not as good as we think we are, and then build from there. And if they have a more realistic expectation, they'll be happier. All right, it's all about that. But I think Man United fans, I think United are doing better than what a lot of people thought, and Chelsea are doing slightly worse, but I don't think it's that dramatic, to be honest.
And on United, before I go to Tom and Ash on that and more the Chelsea side, how do you think United will get on this weekend against Bournemouth? Monday Night Football, under the lights again at Old Trafford, fouled on the last 2 Monday nights there. Well, nighttime games there, one against Everton and then one on a Thursday night against West Ham.
Well, I think you're playing them at a good time because their form hasn't been particularly good. Semenyo hasn't scored in a while. He's not going to AFCON because at least his obviously his country didn't qualify, so he'll be sticking around. Mbeumo's going to be leaving soon as well, so that's a big game for him. I think United will win. To be honest, I think they can try and run. I think Mason Mount has been fantastic this year. Just play him a bit more. Play him a bit more. But I think United will win. I think it is a good time to play them, especially if you're at home. I'd be more worried if it was away. If United were going to Bournemouth, then I'd be less. But I've been fairly optimistic as an outsider on United. I tend to be quite positive on them but I'm only going by what I see and what I see in the statistics. It is a good time to play, and I think they will get the job done as long as you don't shit the bed. You'll be right. If the players play at the capacity we know they can play, they'll win the game. But it is big. But I think you will win.
Yeah,
it will be tough.
Bournemouth's interesting because they've got no win in their last 6. 4 of them were defeats. They have 2 wins in their last 11 games. So the form isn't great. But this is often where Man United mess up. I know. Look, I thought Wolves would beat us on Monday. And a lot of that was just, you were saying earlier, as I can be very unbiased when it comes to everybody else's clubs. I can be very unbiased when my team does something good. When I'm worried about my team, I find it very hard to be nothing but pessimistic. I can't, it's just how one of our members, Harold, says this thing where he'd rather be positive all week and then lose. And then that's 6 days of feeling happy and 1 day of feeling sad, rather than be pessimistic all week and then you lose, and then it's 7 days of feeling down. I've tried really hard to have that mindset, but it hasn't worked. I can't. I always find myself being.
Terry, do you think Wolves fans have had that sort of mindset when they were going to play you then?
Maybe not. But I think if you're a match-going fan, I used to, I used to go to Leighton Orient quite a lot when I was younger because we used to get free season tickets with our school when I was a kid. So. Before anyone says, why won't you go into Manchester? Not very many 12, 13, 14-year-old boys travel to Manchester by themselves every week. Most don't even, if they live in Manchester don't go by themselves at that sort of age. But that being said, that was when Orient were really bad. But when you kind of go to the game, everybody went with a renewed spirit for every game. Does that make sense? And hopefully tonight's the night we win. And I used to sort of pick up on that, but I find it really hard at the minute with United. And I don't want to say I fancy us against Bournemouth, but we have a chance. And I think that beating Wolves the other night was really flat. It felt good in the moment, but it felt quite flat afterwards because I couldn't help but go back to the 10-men game against Everton and then the game at home against West Ham, thinking because of the circumstance of who both teams are, the 10 men, I really feel we should have won both those games. We should have 5 more points right now. We should be in a much better situation. So sometimes there's that sort of feeling of...
That's
although
the problem with the league this year, isn't it? It's so close.
Yeah,
your wins are like, yes, but if only we'd done that, and then look at where we'd be in the table.
Yeah, no, I agree. But equally, I don't see. I think Chelsea on the other question. I think Chelsea have underperformed as well, only marginally. I'm not saying they should have 20 extra points or anything along those lines. But them against Bournemouth at the weekend, again, I think for a team with the quality that they have, I thought it was quite toothless at times. I go back earlier on in the season and I look at the United defeat they had. I know they went down to 10 men, silly mistake from Sanchez, bad mistakes from the bench from Enzo. Same thing against Brighton as an example. The defeat at home to Sunderland, the defeat to Leeds. I look at some of these defeats in games that they've dropped points in, games that they've lost, and I just think you are so much better than that, if that makes sense. And I feel like they should have easily this season have picked up 6 more points. I'm not talking about 20 more points or anything crazy, but I think 6 more points is more where they should be. So they do find themselves here. But it's why I think this weekend is absolutely must win, because what I'm starting to notice in the Chelsea fan base is the fans are starting to turn a little bit. You know, they won 2 trophies last year. A lot thought they were going to be in a title race. They were a bit like last season. They were like a win or so away from being on top. And now they see themselves slipping away. And they go 4 league games without a win. How bad could that be for them, Tom?
Not good, considering how they felt, after getting that 1-1 win against Arsenal, should we say. The thing that's bothered me about Chelsea all season is their fans don't know what to expect from their fans don't know if they should be rated or not. Ever since they won that Club World Cup in the summer, you couldn't actually decipher what it was. You'd say, okay, you've won the Club World Cup. What a big trophy that is. You beat PSG in the final. They were the best team in the world. So are we expecting Chelsea now to take that next step? No. Look at the squad. We're still young. We're still this, that. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so I reckon Chelsea might be 4th or 5th. 4th or 5th? Have you seen us win the Club World Cup? Have you seen what we're doing there? So I have no idea where to put them. They don't know where to put themselves, so I have no idea where to put them. I expected off the Club World Cup and off the fact we are 3.5 years into this thing, or 2.5 years into this thing, that we should be expecting a comfortable top 4, the makings of a team that is expected to challenge for the Champions League and the Premier League, considering Chelsea and the amount of money spent and everything. And I feel like I'm still seeing the same inconsistent Chelsea of last year, and the same Chelsea that at points last year was a bit too... I thought that last year, once they lacked a striker that would run the channels in Jackson and put himself about a bit, they looked very toothless. And what they've got now is they've got rid of that striker, which is fair enough because he did underperform a number of times in front of goal, and replaced him with a striker who doesn't do that anyway. So large parts of games, Chelsea look very toothless. And I feel at times Maresca has a bit of that old school Pep gene where it's too much tinkering and too many fancy things at once. Like from what I've seen about the Atlanta game, why was your midfield 3 fullbacks? Why was Cucurella, Gusto, and Reece James your midfield 3 when you had the ball? That's not going to do what you want it to do. You spent how much on midfielders, and some aren't available, and some of this, and some of that. That's fine. You still have midfielders there. Play players in their positions. I don't get why at points we see all this. And I don't want to say Maresca has got it right in a number of big games. He is clearly a good manager. But I expected Chelsea this year to be where City are, for lack of a better term. You know that team that's on the coattails, and you're sitting there going, "Oh, if we slip up this week, they might take advantage of that."
Do you think
I don't think
would,
they are.
But do you think they would be there if Maresca didn't do so much tinkering? 85 changes to the team this year. It's a record by any Premier League club at this stage of the season. I know that the Fofana and Reece James need their bodies being taken care of. But for instance, if you're going to take Reece James out of a team, like, I know Reece James does well in midfield. But if you're going to play Reece James in midfield, Gusto's got to be your right back. I don't understand how he can have both out the team and then plays a left-footed centre-back at right back. That's where I find it hard to blame the players per se. Does that make sense? You know, this isn't... I look at it and just think that's crazy. And then Neto's out the team, but Caicedo suspended, and then you're resting two of your injury... I know that he hasn't been injured for a year now, Reece James, but part of that is about not overplaying him. I think if you start overplaying Reece James, the injuries might come back. Do you think the manager, though, is causing some of these issues?
Yeah, I had a bit of a weird thing into the season about how do we think Chelsea are going to adapt without having that buffer of Conference League football. They weren't playing 2 games a week last season. They weren't. Squad A was playing 1 game a week, and whichever random players were signed in 2022, and we're probably going to get shipped off, but we start them on the book, so let's give them a run out up until the semi-finals. They played in the Conference League. You can't do that now. So he's now trying to make up for that rotation, which helped the points last year in other games. The point about Reece James and Wesley Fofana is one that I don't have much sympathy with, because it's not like they've suddenly become unfit and they've suddenly become unable to play 3 games a week. This has been the thing with them. Reece James has always suffered from injuries. Wesley Fofana has always suffered from injuries. Because you have not got adequate backups and adequate replacements in mind, doesn't mean that, poor Chelsea. It's why have you not done that in time? Why have you only got 1 guy to replace your right back? And if you want to play him elsewhere, we're moving to left-footed centre-backs there, or we're moving to obscenely slow centre-backs who can't handle that position. At times, or at points, you look at this poor squad planning that's gone on at Chelsea potentially, and you have to question that. But again, I don't think certain Chelsea fans know where they sit on Chelsea, whether they believe they should be there or not.
I watched
that lack of identity comes from the manager himself, because the manager himself did a very dangerous thing last year, and I still think that gets forgotten about too much. For the managers to come out when they are 1 point off top and go, "We're not in a title race," I don't think they've.
It's what Troy Deeney called out on CBS earlier on this week, that when they're doing well, some of the players and the manager will say we're one of the best teams around. I'm paraphrasing here. They lose and drop back a little bit, and it's like, well, this is where we're meant to be. And it's the mix. And I said it on a video earlier on today. I get confused. I still think they'll close the gap over the next few weeks on the team top of the league, because I actually think loads of teams are going to drop points, and they've got an opportunity to pounce on that. But the one thing that would be a slight concern for me if I was a Chelsea fan is 2 years running when they've got very close to the top, it's fallen. It's the season's kind of fallen away a little bit, and it's only 4 games. And I'm not saying this is going to continue, but you suddenly drop points against Everton, you draw, and then lose. I don't know who they play after that in the league. Then see, look, this is where it becomes precarious. They say they draw to Everton this weekend. The game after that is away to Newcastle. The game after that is at home to Aston Villa. So suddenly you've got 2 games. Again, they're capable of winning, but they're harder to win. They're games where if anyone goes away to Newcastle and doesn't win, nobody looks at that as overly embarrassing, because they're a very good team at Stamford Bridge. But you go into that on the back of 3, 4, 5 games without winning, it amplifies, it magnifies the situation to another degree. So they've got to really find their feet again, I feel, this weekend. Ash, what's your take on the Chelsea situation and their season so far?
I think they're exactly why I have been saying from the start of this Premier League that they are. They had a very similar end to the season as what we did. We had a very similar transfer season. I thought they were going to be anywhere between 3 to 3rd. 3 to 3rd, 3rd to 5th.
A wide
The
range
same-
that means.
3rd to 5th, same as Newcastle. Like I put us as a very similar sort of level as each other at the moment. So I'm not surprised that they're 5th. It's exactly where I thought they would be. We've underperformed, but Chelsea are where I thought they were. Or granted, to be honest, I think they've actually overperformed. They've had a lot of disciplinary issues with like red cards and everything. They've obviously had Palmer out, which is a massive part of their team. They've still been picking up points. They've had a very unsettled team. They've had a lot of people, like you said, like over like 85 people being chopping and changing. Like you put all of that into, you say that all those numbers and all these things that have happened to the team, and they're still doing very well. So yeah, I think some Chelsea fans have definitely over-egged their team. Like I'll do this thing where I'll talk to a Chelsea fan and be like, we've been very similar levels recently, and they'll just say that they're absolutely clear of us, which isn't true, because if they're absolutely clear of us, then that means that they are title contenders, and they're just not. So, like, unless we were about to say like Delap, flipping Alejandro Garnacho, all these players are somehow going to make them be title contenders that they brought in, just isn't true. So, yeah, they're exactly where they are. And to do with, like, say, the Man United thing, it's crazy. Like, you guys have got 3rd most goals in the Premier League.
This is also it. I mean, I've been very harsh on Man United this year. At the same time, I don't necessarily think we're in a false position. We have been the 6th best team so far this year. Will we maintain that? I think other teams, I think Newcastle and I think Chelsea, although they're ahead of us on goal difference, will pull away. I think you guys will catch us and overtake us. I actually think Liverpool will catch us and overtake us this season as well. But
we best have.
Well, you should do, because you guys do have better squads than us, and you do have better managers than us. So there is no excuse.
Well, the manager points up in the air at the minute, isn't it?
Well, we won you a league title. Like, I know you love Ruben Amorim. You'd like nothing more than him to turn it around so you can say, "See, I told you so." But I hear you on that. Question I've got for you, Ash. You're saying they're where they should be, and Chelsea fans. I'm playing host here, so please don't get upset. Because you all know, and I'm framing this from my perspective, though, I don't believe rebuilds and club builds always start with a managerial change. Example would be if Arteta leaves tomorrow, the new guy comes in, they're not back at phase 1. If Eddie Howe leaves tomorrow, you're not back at the new manager isn't picking up from where Eddie Howe inherited you as a relegation side, right? Equally, they've been on this buy young players, develop the youth since Graham Potter. So I don't look at it as the day that Enzo Maresca joined is the day their build begun. I look at it from around the Potter period when they changed their transfer targeting. Yes, they went through 2 managers, but they carried on going in the same direction. So it's been about 2.5, 3 years. When comes the point for you, Ash, where them being in the top 4 race, being one of the top 5 teams, when does that become a problem? When do they have to be a team that, if they're not challenging for the league, are underachieving for you? How much longer would you give it?
So for me personally, I think it's very clear to say, typical football, they're coming to their peak when they're like 26, 27. If they're going to constantly do this thing where they're reinventing the wheel, where they're buying in young players, they're going to have to hope that every single one of these young players overperforms and pushes them onto this next level. Like, they need to be able to get to a point where they're bringing in some proven older players that are going to be able to help them push for titles. And until that happens, they're going to be stuck in this sort of 4th position, but not because they've got a bad team, because they're going to have players like, say, Esteval that comes in and they might end up being sold on. They're going to make a lot of profit, but they're trying to they've been trying to reinvent the wheel, which is kind of weird. I think they need to look at someone like Arsenal right now. They've got a squad that a lot of players are like 26, 27, and they're in the peak of their powers. The reason why they're going for the Premier League is because they have players in there that have been there and done it, and it's the whole point of why they're getting red cards, because they don't have discipline. They don't have players that are experienced.
I understand that, and I know I'm going to push this point. when comes that point where if they're not ready to start winning, how many more years do you give them? And I'll give you an example. Ineos are nearly at the end of the season, it'll be 2 years that Ineos have been running the football club, right? I said all along, I think it takes 3 to 4 years to fix, should take 3 to 4 years to fix us until we're at a point where we're looked at as one of the best teams in the country. We're almost 2 years into that. Once we get to the end of next season, if we're looking no better, the pressure's got to start to mount, because at some point, and I know, and I'm not one of these people that pushes this narrative with Chelsea about all the money they've spent. A big £500-600 million of what they've spent is on young players. They're going to sell for profit in future. So I don't use all that money against them. But it does come a point where they have to be able to stick a title challenge at the very least.
Yeah. Like I said, a lot of this will come down, like I said, when these players are like sort of 25, 26. I just think when you have players that are too young, as a whole squad, they're liable for inconsistencies and errors. And until they get a bit, like I said,
I don't think their whole strategy is conducive to building a squad for a title, because the amount of turnover they constantly have, they don't give the younger players enough time. Like Madueke, for instance, is looking really good for us. They bring in Bino Gittins when statistically they're the same age, and Bino Gittins statistically was worse than Madueke was last season. So the constant turnover, they're not giving players enough time to build up.
Madueke isn't the one, but Bino Gittins Madueke probably isn't the one-to-one thing though, because Esteval.
Yeah, but I know, but
they push Madueke out because Esteval's coming in, and Esteval has a lot more potential. The problem that Arsenal have, or not Arsenal, the problem that Chelsea have, should I say, is that their model works in a sport where there is a cap on what teams can do, because the advantage of having young players is they're not going to be on as much money, and they're going to be more willing to develop and take reduced roles. The problem in football is that cap doesn't exist. That there's FFP, but if you make enough money, FFP is not really a cap. It's a cap if you want to spend billions, but teams don't want to do that. So ultimately, what we look at here is Chelsea's model, and the fact that it's a cyclical model of we bring in a bunch of players and then they grow for 3-4 years. What are the other teams around you doing in those 3-4 years? Because not everyone else isn't sitting there going, let's give Chelsea 3 years. We're not going to do anything. We'll give Chelsea 3 years so this squad can grow together and then they can hit our level. Because Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City, Manchester United try it, Newcastle, Villa, all are going in this same 4-year period where Chelsea have got their squad and they're trying to grow them all up. They're buying players. They're going into the market and they're bringing in, he's 26, but you know what he is? He's world-class already, and he gives us a major boost on where we are. So Chelsea's model only, for me, and I've maintained this for a couple of years now, Chelsea's model only works if football stands still for them. If football stands still for them and everyone else stays at the same level and allows Chelsea to grow and hit that level, it works. But what football team is going to sit there for 4 years and do nothing and allow other teams to catch up to them? None. So Chelsea, the only way you can counteract that or circumvent that is you can build a core of young players who get you to this point. Everyone else is there. And then you have to go out and stomach paying 300 grand a week and big money signings who take you to that point, who are ready in the here and now to address the big problems, to apply the consistency, to apply the big game moments and put you there. Where Chelsea are, this whole model, you can develop some world-class players, but it takes time. And the one thing about time in football is you don't have a lot of it. You don't have a lot of it because no one else is waiting for you.
I don't even think they're not even giving a lot of the players time. Look how many forwards they brought in this window when they already had a load of young forwards that they already decided, they're not going to be good enough. Let's just sell them off. It's just that plan works if you give the players you've bought some time in, but they're just not even letting a lot of them even try and give them enough time, especially with a lot of the Chelsea fans. We're even talking about Esteval, where it's like, he's not been good enough. It's just like a lot of the fans aren't even giving him time because it's like, he's not good enough now. We'll get rid of him. If you're going for that strategy, you've got to at least let it try and work before trying to rotate your whole bloody front line.
Chelsea fans are always going to be ones that struggled with this
stuff.
It's ridiculous.
Chelsea this is the worst fan base to try it on. It's the worst fan base to try and build a young team on because they're used to that, especially ones around my age. They're so used to that. he's crap, he's gone, and you replace him so quickly. It's not a good fan base to try and build a young team anyway. But if they're going to try and build a young team, try and at least stick to some of the players for a bit longer than a year and a half. Like it's just mental to me. But I just don't think that's conducive to ever being in a title charge. And the only way they're going to be in a title charge is if they start buying some more experience alongside the young players. It's fine buying young players, but you still need to buy PK's players if you're going to challenge.
I hear that. Got us some comments here. This from It's Me. Thank you for gifting out a free membership to one of our lucky viewers tonight. So thank you very much, my friend. Our director is helping Arsenal winning the league by selling him a better player and got 2 worse ones. Well, look, I mean, it's 3 goals in the Champions League now for Noni. A great goal last night. But I personally, barring his substitution appearance against Villa, I think Noni's looked very solid as a squad and fringe player for Arsenal this season. He stepped up well. He's enabled Saka. When Saka was out injured the early parts of the season, I thought he debuted well. And had it not been for the injury setback, I think he'd have some more goals by now. But 3 goals in 3 Champions League games isn't to be scoffed at. Maybe one of the Champions League goals of the season scored as well last night. It's one of those painful bits. If Noni leaves and plays, I don't think he'd play an integral part in Arsenal winning the league like a Saka or a Rice. I don't think he'll be as important as them. But I think he'll be a player that you look back on and go, could be a player you look at and go, really deserves his medal. No disrespect. He's like a folk legend at United, like folklore. He's not going to be a Luke Chadwick. Does that make sense? I think he could end up being someone like in those first 2 or 3 seasons at the club, like a Luis Nani. Wasn't the star winger, but popped up with some good performances, helped the Giggses and the Ronaldos be rotated out the team, scored some important goals. And that could be one that haunts Chelsea. It really could. This year says both can be true. At the beginning, the club wanted him to stay and then got a buyer's remorse and mistakes for both Ekitike and Isak in the same window. Yep, that's back to the Salah stuff from earlier. There could be a bit of buyer's remorse in there. They've done the deal and then realised it was the wrong thing. Some people get that walking down the aisle.
Could you imagine, though, just to take us back to the summer, could you imagine if after the season Mohamed Salah had, Liverpool didn't re-sign him? Could you imagine the reaction to that? Yeah. Especially losing Trent at the same time.
That's also why, though, hindsight is lucrative, and we all do. But equally, we're very fickle as football fans. Let's say you didn't re-sign him, there'd have been a massive meltdown. But let's say you started the season without Salah and you were better. Say you started the season, you were like a freight train and you were top of the league now by 5 points. Salah would be forgotten about. The thing is with football, it is no different to the workplace. Have you guys ever worked anywhere for a prolonged period of time that you liked working at? Have any of you had a job like that, where you like in an office environment or whatever? I remember when people would leave that I really liked and got on with. And you'd be like, oh, it won't be the same without you. Within 2 weeks, it was exactly the same without them.
Yeah.
It just is how the work environment is. Fans, as much as we love these players, as long as our team doesn't go backwards. When Paul Pogba first left Man United, when Beckham left, Van Nistelrooy left, these players, we carried on winning titles. We carried on being a good team. We didn't care. In the grand scheme of things, we weren't thinking. It's only since we've become a team that loses more regularly do we overthink the ingoings and outgoings, the renewals and non-renewals. The Man United have proven this to me. Man United fans, and I'll include myself in this. Jesse Lingard, the stick he used to get for not being good enough. Jesse Lingard was good enough to be a United fringe squad player at any period for United in my life. The problem is our levels got so bad when he was in the team, we were asking him to be a regular first teamer, and he wasn't of that level. We would never have hated a Jesse Lingard if he was part of a title-winning squad, starting 10 games, coming on the sub 10, 15 times, chipping in with 10, 15 goals, like a Noni Madueke. Maybe not 15 goals, maybe chipping in with 5 to 10 goals across all comps. We'd have loved him. None of us used to dislike David May or Henning Berg when they weren't that great. They were good players. They weren't great. Phil Neville, good player, wasn't world class. We didn't hate him. But we would do if those guys came through the academy or were bought now, but they were the best we bought. We'd hate on them, and I think that's what sometimes happens as well in these scenarios. Henry, Ronaldo and Messi never got farewells. This is true. Not everyone gets one. If he wanted to leave, just let the club know privately. They had already benched him 3 games in a row. It's the perfect timing. Yeah, look, I mean, look, you could look at it both ways. The one thing Mo Salah said, which I always see as a bit of a player orchestrating something, and I've got to keep the energy right. When they do that, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this, but I love the fans in the club. That I love the fans in the club line. Everyone who wants to leave a club says it. Does that make sense? They all use that line in case they don't get sold. I always said I loved it here, didn't I? Yeah. Is Salah a bigger legend than Jamie Carragher?
Yes.
Gotta be.
I feel like there's been a bit of a rewriting of history of Jamie Carragher as a footballer.
I think it's because
he's like as a pundit.
Yeah, it's because of where he is as a pundit. Like, if
he was a good centre back. You don't play 737 times in the Premier League and the Champions League if you're not a good defender for a top team.
See, he reminds me of this. Do you know who he reminds me of? If I've got a modern day player, he's like a defensive version of a James Milner. Good player.
Mm-hmm.
Like, never the best, never world class. Yeah. Could be on his day, but he was good. He was a very good and consistent Premier League player. No more, no less. He doesn't sit in that same category that the Rios, the Terrys. Like, I would say Sammy Huppier was better than him.
There's a reason he was a bench player for England. When England had their best centre backs, Carragher wasn't one of them. But Carragher was a guy who was on the bench and they could bring on. He was a good player. He's a Liverpool legend. So Mohamed Salah, with all due respect, is a Premier League legend.
Would you put Sammy Huppier above Gerrard Carragher in terms of his ability as a defender?
Yeah, ability-wise, Huppier was better.
Huppier, yeah.
Carragher has the 737 games.
No, I understand that. I'm just trying to ascertain at their peaks.
On pure ability, Carragher. I mean, I don't know if I can put Carragher top 5 centre backs I've seen on ability, but as a defender
at Liverpool.
But in terms of where he sits, he's probably second or third. But on pure ability, but what he was as a footballer, I'd have to argue to put him top 5. Whereas if you look at Salah, we're talking about putting Salah in the best Premier League 11 of all time on the right hand side here. There's levels to where Carragher and Salah sit.
No, I get that. Hang on a minute. The goalie could score here if they're lucky. I skied it. Nottingham Forest winning 2-1. Late winner for them in Europe. I don't know what that's like anymore. Moving on to one of the last questions, maybe the last question, depends on time. And we're going to factor this into the Premier League and the title race as well. But Seb, fact or fiction? After 6 wins from 6 and just 1 goal conceded, Arsenal are now the favourites to win the Champions League this season.
Well, I'm just going to say facts because it's enjoyable. But we have been the best team in the tournament. There's no doubt about that so far. We've won every single game. We've been fairly comfortable in every single game. Obviously, the tournament doesn't properly start till the knockouts because PSG in the league phase last year were rubbish and they ended up winning the whole tournament. But as it stands today, we're the favourite of the bookies. So they're gambling with their own money. So I'm going to go, yeah, we are playing the best. The team I said was favourites to win it at the start of the year was Bayern. And we beat them fairly comfortably. Obviously, it's the group stage game. It might change in the knockouts. But we're just playing so well. And even like last night, we made so many changes. And we were still fantastic. The only thing I didn't like about yesterday was in the group chat, we're talking about it. And it's just like everyone's just going, oh, Gyökeres is crap, isn't he? I'm like, we just won 3-0. Madueke's had a superb game. And all you can talk about is fucking Gyökeres. It was it was winding me up so much.
He's not very good.
The time to talk about him isn't after winning a game midweek 3-0. Like, there's a time to talk about that, and that's not that time, right?
Mate, so positive Dan was saying he would want Nico Jackson over
but that's just ridiculous. That is stupid. He does a lot for us without scoring goals, right? He drags defenders up positions. He gives our wingers. Yes, I know it wasn't, but just hear me out for a second, right? It's not a coincidence we score more goals when he is on the pitch, right? So just give him some credit, right? He drags the plane. He's great at holding the ball up. We are not servicing him. Let's be honest. Has there been any chances where we've gone, oh, he's completely missed a sitter there? We're not supplying him properly a lot of the time. I don't think so, right? But I'm quite a big Kai Havertz fan, so I'm quite looking forward to Kai Havertz coming back. I think Kai Havertz is a great player. But going back to the question, I think even when we do have heavy rotation, we're still winning the games in the Champions League comfortably. I think as well, teams play into our hands a lot more in the Champions League because they will come out and not a lot of them are going to sit back against us, which we can exploit a lot more. So the way it goes at the moment, we are looking a lot better in the Champions League. And yeah, at the moment, in this moment in time, as an Arsenal fan, I'm sitting here saying we are favourites. It's difficult to say that considering we've never actually won the thing. But I think at this moment in time, we look the best. We have such good squad depth, and I think we are favourites at the moment. To be honest,
do you know what's so funny about what you said, Seb, about the other day with the game, about how you guys won 3-0. Me and Kane were probably the happiest people that was on that panel, and you guys won 3-0. Like, I couldn't believe there was like 6 Arsenal fans there.
Arsenal fans are weird at the minute.
Yeah,
they're very weird.
Driving me back, especially with Anton, because Anton's like, a lot of people are like, he's way too positive, and then he's just roasting us the whole game. And I'm like, what are you talking? We won 3-0 for God's sake. Be happy. Like, we can talk about Yokres another time.
Yeah,
it can be in a bubble. This one game, we'll talk about that one game in a bubble. We can make overarching statements in a panel show, right?
And not to mention, he scored an absolute belter of a goal.
And people forget that, like, Martinelli scored a great goal as well. It was such a good performance from us. Yeah. Like, Marino dropped back into midfield, looked really good. And it was just like, it's just that there's right and wrong times to talk about things. And it's just like, we've just won 3-0. We've rested a lot of players. We've got rotation in there. We didn't pick up any injuries. So it was quality, but I just don't, honestly, I understand why a lot of people hate Arsenal fans, because I hate a lot of them half the time as well. But it's just like, there's certain times to talk about things. But yeah, going back to the question, I think we are favourites. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that for a second, Ash, because I do agree with you. You can just be really happy in the moment of winning a game. You don't need to.
You're a fan.
I saw someone call out Craig from the Anfield Agenda. Well, I saw his clip to it where they were like, "How dare you be happy that we beat?" I'm gonna talk like I'm the super chat. How dare you be happy that we beat Inter Milan? You want Arne Slot sacked? Yeah, he wants Arne Slot sacked because he thinks that's better for the club. But he still wants to be wrong, and he wants Liverpool to get better. There isn't a Liverpool fan. Like, I felt this a little bit the other night when Liverpool won with the backdrop of the Salah situation, that there were some Slot out people that were maybe a little bit annoyed they didn't lose. But most Liverpool fans will want to be wrong about Slot, will want him to turn it round, will want to go back to winning and get up near to the top. But what you can just do as football fans is celebrate winning a game in isolation. 10 first-team players either rested, injured, or rested, injured, or dropped and left at home. 10 players. You go away to a team like Club Brugge, who only 2 games ago drew with Barcelona 3-3. So there's a lot of people that say how much better La Liga is than the Premier League. They drew with Barcelona 3-3, and you smashed them 3-0. They had some moments where they looked quite dangerous on the counter-attack. I can't fathom why, in isolation to that game, it's not beaming smiles, happiness. Your next league game is Wolverhampton Wanderers at home. I'll be honest with you, I would never personally do this, but put your bottom dollar on Arsenal getting 3 points. They are so bad. It's as close to a guarantee to 3 points as you're ever going to get. Being happy with that win doesn't mean you have to then make a statement of we're winning the quad. Why are you so happy you're winning the quad? No, don't be dragged into any of that nonsense. Enjoy that moment. I think we lose the ability to do that as fans, and I find it really, really strange because no one did that when I grew up. No one did it before the social media era. No one did it pre-lockdown era. It just seems to be this element of I don't want to be clipped or cooked for like being happy after a win. Why not? Why not ignore it? I keep saying it will cut people out of your life on social media, group chats, who think it's weird to celebrate winning games of football. Just don't interact with them. Don't go on their platforms. Don't communicate with them. They're just bad of mind people. Remove them from your life, and trust me, you'll be such a happier person for it. That being said, Tom, do you think Arsenal should rightfully be called the favourites right now?
On the basis of I don't know who else has hit their level this year yet. Bayern, I haven't seen it with them, and I still don't see it with them. I just think that system that they play it's so easily exploitable by any top team with good wingers who will just leave their wingers high, and then their fullbacks can't do what they do, and then all of a sudden the system falls apart. Inter Milan aren't as good as they were under Inzaghi. They haven't, they look extremely toothless and easy to play against. PSG, I think, have suffered a lot with injuries this year. They're the one that I think will be interesting to see what they're like if they're fully fit. If they're fully fit, I'd probably lean on them, but they keep getting injured. I mean, Marquinhos went off injured now. Don't know how long that one is, so he could be out for a while. Then I just know Arsenal have coped better with injuries. I'm not saying Arsenal don't have the injuries, but Arsenal have coped better with injuries than PSG have. PSG's play has suffered a lot more when they miss certain players. Barca, suicidal high line isn't going to work against teams with pacey forwards. Real Madrid, we all saw the game against Man City. They shoot themselves in their own foot. Ironically, the team I think are the biggest threat to Arsenal are Manchester City. With Pep Guardiola on the European stage, a lot of these players have the experience of winning a Champions League, which I do think is a big factor. They are probably the biggest threats. And if I'm going for the third biggest threats, if we book our ideas up, you've got to consider us in the same category as your Bayerns. I think it's Arsenal the favourites, PSG with injuries, and Man City are like the close ones. And then it's us, Real Madrid, Bayern, all these lot who sit in that third tier of, they have problems, but if they can sort them out for one-off games, you can't rule out the quality they've got.
City are starting to look a bit scary. I know they had them games where they conceded goals, but the last two matches have made me look, again, as a United fan who doesn't want City winning trophies.
Goals if Haaland's not scoring them, and that's the big worry for the rest of the league.
And that was something I pushed back. I heard Michael Richards say, I think on Sky about 4 weeks ago. And obviously, when I do content defending City, City fans I don't expect a thank you, but people don't really care, if that makes sense. But I spoke about that as a call out, and I just said, yeah, it's an anomaly. It was an anomaly like Arsenal scoring most of their goals via set pieces. It was an anomaly that, having watched football for 39 years, nearly 40 years, I just knew would level itself out organically. It didn't need a major focus. And now it's happening. Foden looks back to his best. Defenders are scoring goals. Cherky, this man's a genius. Cherky is an absolute baller. Technical ability. I actually think he's deceptively physically strong and quick as well. Just doesn't move like somebody that is.
He's one of the ones who's a bit stocky without the build.
Like John McGinn.
Dimitar Berbatov was a lot pacier than he looked. When he actually let himself sprint, he wasn't Mbappe, but he wasn't a slouch, and he's got a bit of that about him. But he sees pictures. He sees pictures before. You get those pictures where you got to kind of squint your eyes, and then out of the pattern, a picture will emerge and kind of comes out 3D at you. That's how I think he views football. He sees opportunities before other people do. And it's all starting to kind of click and come together in that regard. So I think it's fair that Arsenal were seen as the favourites by the bookmakers for the Champions League. But for me, if City keep growing the way they are, they're a massive threat to everybody in that tournament. PSG, I know they weren't great in the league phase last year, but by this stage of the league phase, they started purring. It was the first few games they didn't. They've looked a bit off key all year to me, PSG, by last year's standards.
They're not even first in the league.
Yeah, they've looked a little bit. What's happened to Dembele this year? Is he injured a lot again?
Yeah, he's kept getting the same injury over and over.
By the way, I need to call someone out on this. It reminded me this morning. Eye test. Ali, Mr. Eye Test, you DM'd me daily 6 months last year about Isak being the best striker in the world and Dembele proving you right that he's the greatest attacker in the world. It's funny how this season, not one DM from him. Not one DM. Especially as he's always...
I can't even laugh.
Not one DM. Well, no, but it's one of these things. I actually, I rate both their talent, but the argument was never that. I always said this about both Isak and Dembele. It was a case of they had opportunities at bigger clubs and fouled, not to go to smaller clubs. When they're thriving at a big club, I'm saying well done, but you've got to maintain that. Look, Dembele won a Ballon d'Or. You can't take it away from him. Last season was amazing. But when you're talking about legendary status in the game, you can't have one good season your whole career, like where you stayed fit and where you've delivered. You got to do it for multiple years. Do you know what I mean? Like the peak was very high, but I'm a longevity man myself. But Ali, strangely, not one DM about Isak all season, especially Isak. I'm surprised by that, Ali, because I thought you were right. That he was, again, the argument wasn't that Isak was good or bad. The original debate was he said that Isak was clear of Erling Haaland. This was 4 or 5 years ago. So the debate was never, I thought the player was good, you thought it was bad. It was Isak versus Haaland. Not one DM this year. Interesting that. On Arsenal, I want to play something as well, because I wanted to get your guys' take on this as we filter this back into the title race as well. And I'll go to Ash first on this one once I play it. But I wanted to get your view because why can't... Oh, here we go. There it is. I couldn't find the video. Because I've seen this be said, and you've mentioned the Gyökeres kind of being attacked now as one of the new narratives. But this was said by Paul Scholes a couple of days ago, which again, a lot of Arteta outers and a lot of Arsenal detractors are agreeing with. But I wanted to get your view on this, and of course the viewers of Six Sided's opinion on this from Paul Scholes.
Arsenal can't win a big game.
No.
They can until they start winning big games. They've got no chance of winning the league. Who was it? Liverpool, they got beat. City, they couldn't beat. City was struggling and they couldn't beat them at home. Yeah. Villa, a team who again, look, they're a really good team. Villa, don't get me wrong, but they can't win them games.
Was it Chelsea where they went down to 10 men? Chelsea,
couldn't beat Chelsea. No,
Villa are a top team.
Villa are a good team.
Villa are a very good team.
I think, Nick, if you're going to win the league, you've got to start winning some of the games at some point. You've got to beat your rivals, and they can't do it.
No.
It's an interesting one, especially from Paul Scholes saying that. But look, it all depends on what other teams are doing around them. If they get draws and they start kicking on, at the end of the day, they do need to beat other contenders. They've still got to go against Man City. So the fact they're currently two points behind Man City, ahead of Man City, and then they've got to go away to the Etihad, you could potentially say that Man City right now are actually the favourites to win, because you would like to think Man City are probably going to think that they're going to win that game. They do have to start beating some of these rivals, especially the Chelsea one. Like the fact that Chelsea went down to 10 men, of course, it's a bit of a strange one because you never know how teams go. They go a bit more resolute, more defensive, go for more counter-attacking football when you go down to 10 men. But yeah, no, I do think Arsenal need to be a bit more prolific and against some of these teams. So no, I would agree, to be honest. If they want to win the league, they're going to have to start getting some results against these teams. But
ultimately, it's a lot bigger than just the 3 points.
Yeah,
you beat one of your title rivals, whether home or away.
6 pointer
marker. You're leaving a marker. It's got the chance to knock their momentum and throw them off course. But the biggest thing it'll do is give you the confidence going.
I get that, but who are who are the title rivals that Arsenal haven't beat
this season?
Yeah,
City's the main one.
Yeah, well, the City's probably there.
And I will say, we're not there now, but at the moment where they played us, that was expected to be who will be the top two this season, who will get the first part of the top two this season. It was seen as that way, and they didn't come to it. Now, what's happened since has taken us out, but in the moment where that game was and the storyline around that, they failed. So the
only title rival City who they drew with, so City haven't beaten a title rival either.
Well, yeah, but you got to remember that was at Arsenal. That was
right.
Arsenal was at home, so you would like to think you normally, if you're going for the title race, you would always say you would want to draw away and win at home against your title contenders. So they've done the thing where Man City have drawn against Arsenal away, and then they've got to have them at home, which you would like to think, and majority you would contenders, you would think you always want to be resolute at home, you always want to win. So Man City will probably going into that game thinking that they're going to be winning. Therefore, so yes, I think it's context. If it's away and you get a draw, then of course. But if it's at home, like say that Man City game was, you'd think Arsenal should be trying to win.
What you got to say about this, Seb? What do you make of this take from my legend Paul Scholes?
I think Paul Scholes is just being bitter, to be honest with you. we have won big games. Granted, we've won big games in the Champions League. We still beat Spurs, which for us is a big game. They haven't beaten us either. The season where we did lose out to Man City, we got 4 points off them. So if beating your title rival is the crux of winning a title, we have done that and it didn't work. We battered Man City last year 5-1. So it's not like we haven't done it before. Our record against the top 6 sides the last 2 seasons was impeccable. There was a stretch of like nearly 2 years where we didn't even lose to one. So we have done that and we still didn't win the title. I don't think the crux of a title winning season is beating your rivals. It's beating everyone else and staying consistent. As long as they don't beat us and we draw against them, but we beat everybody else, we'll win the league title. We are 2 points top of the league. So if we aren't good enough, we shouldn't have been top of the league in the first place. City came to our ground and parked the bus because they didn't realise they were as good as us. Man City's never done that to us ever. Even last year where we battered them 5-1, they didn't park the bus. They came to our ground, got 1 goal on a transition and sat there. I don't think I've heard a lot of people going, well, Man City, they are going to win at the Etihad, so they're going to win. It's just like, what even gives you that confidence? We haven't lost to them in a while. I can't remember. We haven't lost to them in a long time. So it's completely flipped over. It was before where we could have beat them. Now it's like they can't beat us. So quite frankly, I think this whole rhetoric is just like, where has it come from? Because I want to see them beat us as well. If we have to beat them, they've got to beat us as well. And quite frankly, they haven't managed to do that. The only game we did lose to was obviously to Liverpool, and that was a long-range screamer from Szoboszlai. It's not like Liverpool outplayed us that game. It was a pretty dull game. But yeah, I don't like it. And it's not, you can't just cut out the fact that we've battered Spurs as well. We've beaten Man United away from home, where again we've struggled at. We beat Fulham, which is another game we dropped points in last year. We beat Newcastle, which for us is massive. We never beat Newcastle away from home. So there have been big games where we have picked up big points, where we've gained on from last year. We beat Bayern Munich at home. So it's just like, we have won big games, but it's been proven that leagues aren't won by you beating your rivals, because City didn't beat us when they won the league and they still won it. So it's just like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Do you know, the thing for me was I looked at this and I looked at it purely from the lens that Paul Scholes was pushing. So title rivals are a big game. We'd all agree in what he's saying. He mentions Aston Villa. So then what I thought was, right, who are the teams that we look at as really hard, big hard away games on Villa's level? And you're thinking, I think we look at Newcastle, Palace, Bournemouth, Aston Villa. Is there another team you guys have put into that category away from home?
I don't know if I put Bournemouth there, but I'd probably put.
Well,
I'd want to put Everton there, because Everton's a horrible
Everton.
place.
Okay, cool. So Everton's a really good example. So we'll add those 5 there. We could add that in. We would then all consider a clash against a top 6 big 6 team a big game, home or away, right? Yep. Then you've got your geographical big games, so your Manchester derby, your North London derby, time weird derbies, etc. Yes. And then you've got title rivals, which at the moment most people say is City and them. So if we actually look at this, Arsenal have played 8 of them this season. So that's City's. Arsenal played 8 of those so-called big games this year. Away at United and won, lost away at Liverpool, drew with City at home, beat Newcastle away. I actually put Sunderland into that category of tough away games this year, because I think they have been tough to beat away from home. And I'll do that for any team. But if you want to minus that, you can minus it, but it was only a draw. Smash Spurs 4-1, drew away at Chelsea, and then lost to Aston Villa. So it's 12 points from those 8 games. If we remove the Sunderland game, if you guys don't want it in there, then it's 11 points from 7 games. It actually, removing Sunderland actually improves Arsenal's return on that. So it's up to you guys. You want to improve it. City have played 6 games that fit the category you guys build. So first of all, it means Arsenal, based on Scholes' view, Arsenal's start of the season has been harder, more big games. Out of those big games, they've only amalgamated 7 points. So even if we remove the Sunderland game, Arsenal have 4 more points in 1 extra game in a big game category that Paul Scholes has produced. My issue here isn't Scholesy. This is terrible researchers and producers on that show that have looked at a tweet that went viral on Saturday afternoon when they lost, saying that Arsenal have been bad in big games this year. They've done no research. They've run with that narrative, and Paul Scholes has just said something that's been scripted to say. Because when you actually spend 5 minutes researching it, Arsenal's record in the quote-unquote big games this season has been better than Manchester City's by 4 points. And they've played at least 1, if not 2 extra games. And Arsenal have played more of those big matches away from home so far this season, which means in the second half, they've got a bigger advantage because they're at home for more of those games. I just find it to be one of those things. I think it's absolutely
could
fair.
Could it be more fair to say, though? Could it be more fair to say that the narrative is you have to win your big games for the title, and that's not necessarily true. But could you say that to get over the line for that first title with a group, you're better off winning that first? You're better off winning those games against rivals. Because I think that first City team.
I don't disagree. We were
close for a couple of years. We were close in 18-19, didn't beat City, lost out. The next year, we played them, we beat them, and then we rode the wave of momentum through that. And I look at City back in 2011. First goal of it,
but I would agree with you, Tom. But I would agree with you if he'd have said the fact they didn't beat City at home might come back to haunt them, and it's now 2 points, and City will beat them at the Etihad, and that gives them a 1 point advantage. That for me is a much fair. But he threw in they couldn't beat Aston Villa. They didn't beat Chelsea away. Now you're broadening the big game element away from just title rivals, and you're broadening it to any tough away game. Anyone who's part of the Big Six. And if you start looking at that broadly, they've won quite a lot of those games. They've won 11 points from 7 matches. I haven't done the research on any of the other sides because I don't consider anyone else capable of winning the league as it stands. But I bet you Arsenal's comes out somewhere near the top. If you look at Liverpool's record against those types of teams, United's against those teams, Chelsea's against those teams, I bet none come out with more than 11 points in the 6 or 7 games they've played against them. My issue is that we're using something that is not abnormal. In fact, Arsenal's record in it is probably better than everybody else's. It's better than City's. And we're saying that's the reason they don't win the league. It's fine for me if people don't think Arsenal can win the league, but the rationale has got to hold water. And for me, what Scholesy and the boys spoke about on there, as a football fan, don't make sense. Because Arsenal have had some massive games this year that they've won. They've had some they've lost. But so's everybody this season. And I don't think that's changing, by the way. I think going away to those teams we mentioned, going away to Arsenal's, Bournemouth's, Palace's, etc., City themselves, Newcastle, loads of teams are going to drop points. They're drawing and losing at those grounds, including Arsenal. So I don't think it's this massive. It's not something that's going to create an abnormality in the league, I don't think. City, I think, like this weekend, as brilliant as City have been, I think Palace take points off them this weekend. And I think Arsenal then beat Wolves. So the points gap will go back to where it was if that happens. Therefore, all this weird talk all week kind of falls off a little bit. But I just think it's a bit of overanalyzing personally, but I could be wrong. Viewers, look, give us your thoughts, give us your opinions in the comment section. As we're in member chat only at the moment. This here says, we won the Premier League last year. We beat United at Old Trafford. The last time we won the Premier League, you did beat us there. I want to say a big thank you, by the way, to Insomniac, who's become an official member of the Terrace during this stream as well. Thank you, buddy. People need to relax with this favourites tag to be a bit pointless at the moment. There is 9 games at the most with the Champions League and a massive 23 games in the Premier League. Relax and enjoy. I agree with the enjoyment part, absolutely. Arsenal has scored only 2 set-piece goals in the Champions League. This is true. I'm furious as an Arsenal fan, to be honest. We've scored so many open play goals. Our set-piece goals have dried up, and this is not sustainable. Come on, you gooners. Seb, if Arteta wins nothing, should he go? No excuses.
I mean, there has to be context to it. I can't just say outright because anything can happen. If Man City go get 95 points, I don't think that's Arteta's fault for not winning a league. If he gets 93, that's the most points we've ever had. So you need some context to it. And so I can't just go straight out yes or no.
The talk about Isak worse than Gyökeres. Yeah, I mean, Isak's been worse, definitely. We'd all agree to that, I assume. With Šeško being the best acquisition. Henry did get his goodbye. It came on loan in the FA Cup against Leeds. Classic goal. That was a mad moment.
We will not be moaning. We will not be loaning back Mo Salah though. If he goes.
Panel, who are the favourites for the league currently? Who do you guys have as the favourites right now? Has anyone mind changed at all in the last few weeks?
I've said Arsenal from the start, so.
To be honest, I said I thought Man City for over a month ago, and I think that, not because I think Arsenal's bad. I said this for weeks, that the reason why I didn't think Arsenal would win would be because of draws, not because of them not being defensively amazing. I just think it was why Liverpool won last season.
Yeah, I hear you. I think the next 4 games for Arsenal is going to be an intriguing point of view for people that have an opinion like yours, Ash, because I think they're very winnable games. They win all 4 of those games, and I think people might look at it and go, maybe drawing and losing to some of the harder teams when you're playing the guys that fit in that category below. There's about 7-8 places below that where you've just got to be beating them home and away. I think sort of the bottom. I was looking at the league earlier, and with an anomaly or two, I think at the bottom. Where's the fucking table? So I think teams from probably Bournemouth are maybe the anomaly in their away, but I look at like Brentford, Fulham, Leeds, Forest, West Ham, Burnley, Wolves, like that group down. I think if you're going to win the league title, I think you've got to be beating those teams home and away this year. Like by and large, you've got to be beating them. And all the other teams you've got to be looking to beat at home, maybe barring your cities and right now, there's no one else actually. City are probably the only team I look at on form and go, there's a buy there. Like but then they have done that by and large, if that makes sense. It's just been the away games, but we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting one.
I mean, unless there's an 11-point swing, my favourites aren't exactly going to be up there, so I might have to change mine. I'll say Arsenal, but I do think I'm very interested to see how City do over this festive period. If they come through this festive period well, I'd go for them, even if Arsenal are above them. Because the City can just go into a machine mode, and having been against it multiple times, it's the most terrifying thing. Yeah,
well, yeah, you're right. They beat Palace this weekend, then beat Brentford. They beat West Ham, beat. I mean, the thing is, after the Palace game, they play Brentford at home, West Ham at home, Forest away, Sunderland away. That's the festive games. Of those 5 games, the 4 that come after, I think are really winnable. It is that Palace game. But as you say, if they come through it with 5 wins and Arsenal drop points, City will probably be top. So it's going to be a really interesting festive period and see who comes out on top. And I mean, what are the stacks on that? Like the team that's first after Christmas winning the league. It's quite a high percentage of teams first, like January 1st, win the league, isn't it? It's quite a high percentage.
The only teams that don't really do it. The only teams that don't really do it are Liverpool and Arsenal.
Yeah.
And Newcastle. I want to throw that in there as Newcastle.
Yeah, I know.
But there we go.
All 3 of us here are the exact byproducts of that.
No, we've done it. In fairness, we've done it once in my memory, but when we were properly clear against Arsenal. I want to say that was 02-03 season. Must have been because I was living in Essex then. I remember where I was. I went out for a walk. I went out for a walk when Arsenal secured it. I was very angry, and I still remember where I walked to as well. I was very annoyed. Listen, I want to thank everyone who's tuned into the show tonight. It means a great deal to us. This is going to redirect you to Jamie Story, who comes on our Monday Straight Fact shows. He is live right now. Please go and support him on his channel. Go and give him a subscribe. Go and subscribe to his channel if you would do that. That'd be great. I want to thank you all so much for being on. Thank you to our new members and our super chatters, and of course the brilliant panel tonight. It was great sitting here and talking football with you all. Until next time, take care, goodbye, God bless, and I'll see you soon.